Changing formulas. You learned many formulas in previous chapters, and sometimes it's useful to be able to change those formulas so you can solve for different parts of the formula. This is actually no harder than solving an equation, and if you understand solving equations, you won't have any trouble with this. The first example, I have the formula that will be familiar to you as the area of a rectangle, and I have area is equal to length times width. In the first case, I want to find L. I want to solve for L. So I'll have my equation area equals length times width. Now if we remember, when things are multiplied, we want to divide to get them clear. The L is the thing I want left in the equation. I'm solving for L. So I want to get rid of this W. Since W is multiplied times the L, I need to divide to clear it out of that side of the equation. What I do to the right, I have to do to the left. You've done this type of equation many, many times. So I have area over width, the W's cancel, and I have equals length. Then I've changed the formula to one which will allow me to find the length of a rectangle if I know its area and its width. Let's look at the same formula from another perspective. We have the same formula, area is equal to length times width, only this time I want to find W. W is the variable I want left alone in the equation. Since L is multiplied times W, I need to divide by L, do the opposite operation, and I'll divide by L on both sides. The L's cancel, and it leaves me with W is equal to A over L. The width is equal to the area over the length. That way, if I know the area and the length of a rectangle, I can find the width. It's exactly the same as solving any kind of equation. You use the same operations that you used before. The second formula we'll deal with is the formula for volume of a cylinder. V equals pi times r squared times h. The volume equals pi times the radius squared times the height. And the first thing that we want to do is to find h. We want to solve this equation for h. So we'll start with our basic equation, V equals pi r squared h, and we want this h to be left alone. Now you need to remember that pi and r squared are both multiplied times this h. When things are multiplied, you need to divide them to get rid of them. So I'll divide by pi r squared on both sides of this equation. On the right-hand side, the pi and the r squared cancel out, leaving h, which is the variable that I want. And on the right-hand side, I've got v over pi r squared. So I know the height of a cylinder can be found if I know the volume and the radius. Finally, in our last example, using the same formula, we're going to solve for r. So we'll start with our basic formula, V equals pi r squared h. And I want that r left alone. Even though this may look a little trickier because the r is nested in the middle, it's absolutely no different from this equation that we did before. Pi is multiplied times r squared, and h is multiplied times r squared. And when things are multiplied, you want to divide them to get rid of them. So I'll divide both sides by pi h. Now on the left-hand side of the equation, I have v over pi h. And on the right-hand side of the equation, the pi has canceled and the h has canceled, leaving me with r squared. I'm almost there, but I'm not quite done. The question was finding r, not finding r squared. Now you remember, if you have something to an exponent, you want to take the square root of that thing. I'm going to take the square root of both sides of this equation. When I do, I have r equals the square root of v over pi h. Now, these equations may seem a little more complicated at first glance, but you can see they're actually not. If you use the very same techniques that you use to solve equations, you can use those same techniques to find particular variables in formulas. Just use the very same techniques that you did in any equation.
When you're working with algebra, you're going to find out that many times you're going to have to change formulas. You have to isolate your unknown, and then you plug in the numbers. Let's take a look at this video. When astronauts are in orbit, either outside their spacecraft or inside their spacecraft, the spacecraft travels around 26,025 miles around the Earth in 90 minutes. How many miles an hour does a spacecraft travel? Let's do the math. The spacecraft travels 26,025 miles around the Earth in 90 minutes. And we want to find out how many miles an hour is that spacecraft traveling out in outer space. And so the formula equals distance equals rate times time. So we want to find the rate. So we will isolate the r by dividing each side by t. And so d over t equals rate. And let's plug in the numbers. And since we're going in this direction, we'll just reverse this. R equals distance, d over t. And the distance equals 26,025. And that's, remember, miles. And the travel length is 90 minutes. Now we want to find out how many miles per hour. So we want to find out miles per hour. We have to convert this now, this 90 minutes, we have to convert that into hours. And 90 minutes divided by 60 minutes, and that will equal 1.5. Drop off the zeros, and 6 goes into 9, 1.5 times. And so that equals 26,025 divided by 1.5. Let's go to calculator. 26,025 divided by 1.5 equals, and so that equals 17,350 miles per hour. That spacecraft is traveling around the Earth. Now, let's find out how many miles per minute that spacecraft travels. So all we have to do then is take this number down, divide that by 60, and that equals 289 miles per minute. And let's see how fast it travels in 1 second. And there's 60 seconds in a minute, so we divide that by 60, divide that by 60, and that equals 4.8. 4.8 miles per second. And the spacecraft travels 4.8 miles per second, or about 5 miles every second. So if you just snap a finger, 5 miles, if you can imagine that, how fast that goes. And what I want to show you in this lesson is all you have to do with the formulas is isolate the unknown, like we did over here. R equals distance over time, and then just plug in the numbers, and you'll get the right answer. Complete the problems on this page and the next 2 pages. Then do the 2 pages of problems for review, final examination. Then take the exam. Remember, there are additional helps and tests if you need extra help. We hope to see you in Algebra 2.
Please work the problems and take the test in your workbook. Number success, the practical way to learn.